Are wisdom and knowledge the same thing? And if not, what's the difference? I'm going to break it down for you in today's show. So in today's age of information and having our phones in our back pocket, we have more knowledge, more information and facts thrown at us all day long than any other time in history. But the truth is, wisdom and knowledge aren't the same thing. And in order for us to live godly lives, in order for us to really show up as Christians, we've got to understand the difference between the two. My name is Tammy from the website Footprints of Inspiration and a Faithful God podcast, where I teach women how to let go of that need for perfection in their faith walk so they can show up perfectly imperfect and create a deep and meaningful relationship with God. So before we get into the key differences between wisdom and knowledge, we have to understand what they are. Knowledge involves understanding facts, truths, and information. It's foundational, but it's not sufficient for godly living. In other words, we have to have knowledge, but it is not enough. It is not enough to just have knowledge. We also have to have wisdom. So that brings us to the point, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the practical application of knowledge guided by God's perspective and moral discernment. So we've got knowledge, which is facts. It's information being thrown at us. But we have to learn, we have to have that godly wisdom to process those facts so that we live in a way that honors God. So in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, it teaches us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So that begs the question, what is the fear of the Lord? What does the fear of the Lord actually mean? It's not about being afraid of God. Rather, it's about acknowledging His greatness and responding with humility, love, and obedience to His word. The fear of the Lord refers to a deep reverence, respect, and awe for God, recognizing His holiness, sovereignty, and authority. So again, the fear of the Lord, it says here in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. But the fear of the Lord isn't about being afraid. The fear of the Lord is having that deep awe and respect for God. It's about having that humility and allowing Him to change us from the inside out. That's what the fear of the Lord is. And again, the fear, as Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10 teaches us, that is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom is taking that knowledge and putting it into practice in a way that honors God. Let's talk about the 5 key differences between wisdom and knowledge. Number 1, knowledge is information, wisdom is application. In other words, knowledge collects facts, but wisdom turns those facts into God-honoring actions. So an example of that would be eating healthy. Just knowing that you need to eat healthy, that's not enough. Knowing that you need to eat healthy, knowing what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to be putting into your body isn't enough. That's just knowledge. But wisdom actually takes that knowledge and puts it into action. Where you're starting to eat healthier, you're starting to eat fruits and vegetables, incorporate those kinds of things into your life. So you see the difference there? Knowledge is gaining those facts, but wisdom is taking those actions, taking that knowledge and taking action in a God-honoring way. Number 2, knowledge is acquired, but wisdom is given. Knowledge is gained through study and experience, right? Knowledge is gained through all the things that we're doing throughout the day. But wisdom is received. It's something that we receive from God. In James chapter 1, verse 5, it teaches us this: if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. If we need wisdom, all we have to do is ask. Knowledge is acquired, but wisdom is a gift that we receive from God. It's taking that knowledge that we've learned and going to God and saying, all right, Lord, this is what I have here. Laying it all out. This is what I have. This is the knowledge I have. This is the information, the facts. Now, Lord, how do I take this knowledge and walk it out in a way that honors you? Number 3, knowledge informs, but wisdom discerns. In other words, knowledge equips us with facts, but wisdom guides us to apply those facts into our everyday life. Think about it like this. I actually grew up in what was called Tornado Alley, and we could see, it was flat lands, and so we could see tornadoes coming for miles and miles away. Knowledge is seeing that tornado, but wisdom is taking that knowledge. I see that tornado coming, and wisdom is going and applying it by getting to a safe place, right? We take the knowledge that we have, the facts that we have, that there's a tornado coming across those fields. Wisdom is what guides us to take action and apply that knowledge into our lives. Make sense? Number 4, knowledge can exist without wisdom. We can all have knowledge. We all gather facts and information throughout the day, but we can also lack the ability, the humility to make wise choices. So we can take all the facts that we know and still lack the humility to actually walk it out in a way that honors God. Knowledge can exist without wisdom, but that is not how God calls us to live. We need to take that knowledge and apply wisdom to everything that we've learned, to those facts, to that information. Number 5, wisdom always leads to a better life. While knowledge might bring success, wisdom shapes integrity, good conduct, and godly relationships. As Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13 through 14 teaches us, blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. Again, knowledge is foundational. We have to have knowledge, but we can't stop there. We cannot stop there. If we want to truly live a godly life, we have to take that knowledge and apply godly wisdom to it. We have to take action in a way that honors God with that knowledge. So is it possible for knowledge to turn into wisdom? You bet it is. That was probably a given, wasn't it? Here's the thing, my friend. It's not enough to just know the Bible verses, to just read the Bible. I say this all the time on the show, if you've been following me for any length of time. We don't just read the Bible, close it up, and then go on about our day. That's just knowledge, and that's important. Right? Remember, we said knowledge is foundational. We need that knowledge from the Bible in order to live those godly lives. But that's not enough. We cannot stop with just knowledge. We actually have to go and apply those Bible verses into our own lives. So often I hear women say, yeah, but Tammy, that was written so long ago. How is Scripture relevant in our lives today? My goodness, my friend, there is so much we can learn from the Bible on what we can do in our lives today. And, I just I'm so grateful that God has given us this blueprint of how to get through our trials and challenges, this blueprint on how to live godly lives, this blueprint, I'm having trouble talking, this blueprint on how to actually have godly wisdom. But if all we're doing is reading the Bible, shutting it, closing it up, and going out about our day and living our lives the same way we've been living, then it will never ever turn into wisdom. We've got to learn how to take those Bible verses and apply them to our lives in order to gain godly wisdom. So yes, knowledge can turn into wisdom, but you've got to do the work. It doesn't just happen on its own, my friend. In fact, in James chapter 1, verses 22 through 25, one of my favorite passages in the Bible because of this very topic, because of the fact that we can't just take in that knowledge. We've got to apply godly wisdom to that knowledge. And it says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and, after looking at himself, goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Godly wisdom can be achieved. Knowledge can turn into wisdom through prayer, through reflection, through taking that good hard look at ourselves and saying, Am I actually walking in a way that honors God? We've got to take that time to reflect. So prayer, reflection, and consistency, right? We've got to get consistent and persistent in our pursuit of honoring God. In our pursuit of godly wisdom, we have to get persistent and consistent in that pursuit. So again, knowledge can turn into wisdom. In fact, that should be our goal. We definitely want it to turn into wisdom. We do that through prayer, through making that ask, right? We do that by studying the scriptures. We do that by taking a good hard look within ourselves and being honest with ourselves. And we do that by consistently practicing godly ways. Now listen, this doesn't happen overnight. This requires us to make that ask over and over and over again. You know, I talk about that back in episode number 98, where I talk about the 7 effective prayers for spiritual growth. One of those prayers is, Lord, give me wisdom. Give me the wisdom to process all of the information that I am taking in on any particular day. You've got to make that ask. You've got to go and get persistent. Like I said, persistent and consistent in your pursuit of that godly wisdom. It requires you stepping off the sidelines. It requires you stepping off the shores and going into the deep waters with God. That's where change and transformation happens. That's where knowledge turns into godly wisdom, is when we step out of our comfort zone. We step out into the deep waters with God and say, all right, Lord, teach me, Lord. Teach me, Lord. One of the most powerful prayers you can pray. So over on the blog this week, I am actually diving deeper into this topic. And I also throw in a third component. We have knowledge, we have wisdom, and understanding. I'm going to talk to you about understanding and teach you how that third component works when it comes to knowledge and wisdom, and how we've got to have that understanding as well. Plus, I'm going to share 5 steps to gain that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from God. So what you can do is hop on over to footprintsofinspiration.com/155. That's footprintsofinspiration.com/155. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I am going to leave a video at the end that actually talks about wisdom and learning how to discern God's voice. So that way you can go and listen to that episode. It's a great episode, again, talking about wisdom and learning how to discern God's voice. Now, in next week's episode, we're going to talk about examples of wisdom in the Bible. We always want to dig into the Bible to get great examples. God gave us the Bible. It's such a beautiful thing. He gave us the Bible so that we have examples on right living. He gave us the Bible so that we would know how to walk these things out, how to walk out godly wisdom in our own lives. And so we're going to talk about that in next week's show. So my friend, if you have not done so already, wherever you are listening or watching the show, be sure to be sure to subscribe to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to give me a big thumbs up. That really makes a big difference. And I would love to hear from you. As we start this new year out, I would love to hear from you. Tell me, what topics would you like to have covered or see covered here on YouTube? I am putting out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and then, of course, the podcast episode on Friday. And I want to answer your questions. What questions do you have when it comes to just really creating a deep and meaningful relationship with God? What questions do you have when it comes to letting go of perfection, and so that you can just step into this life that God has for you? Drop them in the comments below. I want to hear from you, and I want to be able to show up and help you wherever you are, meet you right where you are, my friend. And then listen, I will meet you back here next week for another episode of A Faithful God podcast.